I'm going to try and educate you with the story time. In June of 2011, I was online playing video games with my husband, Steven. It was a game called Worms Armageddon. If you look, it's actually the tattoo I have on my arm, and he has a matching tattoo of it himself. Now, what's special about 2011 is Steve was in Iraq. We used to play games every morning and night. We were 12 hours off, so I was going to bed, he was getting up, vice versa. And Worms Armageddon was our way of communicating, updating each other on our days, and it was just our way of staying connected. Well, this time, I heard a loud bang. And right before Steve hung up what I thought was rudely, he said, "That was a mortar, I have to go." It took me a minute to process it, so I was mad at first, and then it rang in my ears. And I still hear it today. That was a mortar, I have to go. So a mortar is a shell, obviously. That means there was artillery had been fired, and it landed on base. What happens after that is the base goes into lockdown. All ability to communicate is shut down, and it would be shut down that day for over 4 hours. There's something that I didn't realize, though, until that very day, just a few months after we got married. And it's that I was no one. I was no one. You see, at that time, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was instilled. And that meant, as a married couple, we had to hide it from the military. We had to make sure that they didn't know that Steve was married. And so for the next 4 hours, I waited at that computer and hoped and prayed that Steve would reply. I'd send him messages periodically and watch the little notification to see if it had been read. I couldn't call his family because I didn't want to alarm them. But there's one simple fact that I knew. It was that I was no one. And that if Steve had died that day, I would have found out secondhand. I would have found out from his parents or the news. No one would have called me because no one could know who I was. Even though I was the person taking care of our family, our house, our bills, everything to make sure that Steve could serve this country, they could not know who I was because of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So when comments like this arise, the gays, yeah, you seem like you are very good with the gays. You don't know what we're up to, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't make statements like this. You are not a supporter. You never were. You don't like the idea of equality, if that's what you're upset about. Because a 30-year veteran wanted to make sure that his family was protected and that they might have the dignity of finding out that he died from the Army, not the news, or through secondhand. That's the reality.